My next guest is Mark Zowie, the main man behind Novablood, an electro-pop and dance trio from Carlisle. They released their third album under that name, but the first in their current form last year. It's called Destroy the Magic, and yesterday I spoke to Mark all about it. The band were in Camberwell in London at a record shop called Dash the Henge, where they performed last night. And Mark and I caught up ahead of their performance.
Discover the best new music from around the UK.
This is BBC Introducing.
My name's Mark. I'm the songwriter and vocalist for Novablood in Carlisle.
How did you all meet, Mark? I'm curious. Are you all from Carlisle?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've known Paul probably since the very early 90s. He's been in various bands, etc. And Paul became a guitarist in, I think it was very early 2023. And Paolo used to be in Burn the Negative with me. He worked on the tech side of things when we played live.
And that's where it all started?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, yeah. I mean, there was a couple of earlier albums out, Pretty Disco Lights and Changes in the Colours, but those were just self-released. So moving forward from very late 23, I decided that I really wanted to kind of stretch my wings and see if I could sign this particular project, because it's the only project I've ever been involved with, really, that I wasn't able to sign. And it was becoming increasingly frustrating, so by around about early January 2024, I was sending out some, maybe 5 or 6 tracks for a potential album. And there was 2 or 3 labels that were really interested, so that kind of made me strive to complete a full album. So there was 21 tracks written for the new album that came out in October.
Blimey, 21?
Destroy them. Yeah, I wrote 21 between January and May.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it makes life a little bit easier when you've got your own studio set up, I guess. You know, you have a little idea for a bass line and you run upstairs and chuck it into a computer and save it for a rainy day. And that's kind of how I work. I sketch a lot of things out, and then once I get a feel for something, I tend to push it forward.
I was curious where they start. I listened to the album in full this morning, and
yeah,
I couldn't place like where I don't know what kind of ground zero was of your tracks. You know what I mean? Like where they were earthed.
I guess every single track's very different. You know, it may be a little bit of a percussive element that's sort of moving along that you're really inspired by, and that takes you down a musical path. You may suddenly come up with a melody, and then you wrap everything else around that. It could be a basic bass line, you know, something very simple that would probably generate into something completely different. You know, you would embellish it in whatever way that you see fit. There's a track on there called Falling, which was a melody on the chorus that I really sort of came to my mind while I was sitting watching TV. It was a really odd one, and I just ran upstairs, I played it in, and I left it for a few days and kind of went back to it, and I could hear exactly where it needed to go.
Monsters in your head drive you to despair. Alone, do you care?
And it was kind of written and completed in about 48 hours, really, you know.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it was one of those tracks that was really quick. The vocal didn't mind. I mean, I left the vocal for about 6 months before I decided which way I wanted to take it.
Are any of the songs on this album, have any of them sort of come from ideas that are quite old? Have you kind of used up any ideas that have been sitting around for a while on this album at all?
No, I would say everything's been born from potentially October 2023. There was a couple of bits that were looming around that I really needed to sort of jump onto. But I was in a little bit of a hiatus at the time. I was changing a lot of things in the studio as well, which wasn't helping. I was submitting the final track, which was Love, that's on the album, as it was actually all being uploaded for the vinyl release. Yeah, it was a tricky one, because also what we had to think about as well is 21 tracks doesn't really translate particularly well on a single vinyl, so 9 of those 21 tracks hit the vinyl.
And they are quite long tracks as well. Some of them are like 6 minutes plus.
Yeah, I kind of wanted them to breathe a little bit more. I didn't really want to go for anything too ultimately radio. I know that might sound a little bit silly for somebody who would love a little bit of radio play, but the opportunity for me to always do radio edit is always there. But I wanted all the tracks on the album to kind of feel a little bit more organic and were allowed to breathe a little bit, because once you kind of drop a track from 6 minutes down to 2 minutes 50, 3 minutes, it does feel a little bit forced.
Don't tremble and shake, you destroy the magic.
I'm glad that you brought vinyl up. I wanted to talk about vinyl. In some of the images I've seen of you, you are all depicted like rummaging through crates. You crate digging. Is that something that you bond over as a band?
Very much. Yeah, Paolo's a complete vinyl addict. In fact, as we speak, he's in Dash the Henge Records, where we're playing tonight.
Right.
With a pile of records he's going through. Yeah, we're all very much of that background. We're all former DJs, and we all have substantial vinyl collections. And it is something we talk about a lot. It is something that we wanted to potentially achieve with a record label. And when we did sign to Old World, New World, and when they said that, potentially this is going to be going on vinyl, so you need to really think about your track listing, we were like, oh my God. Because I haven't had a vinyl release since 2010, when I was in Burn the Negative. We had some 7-inch singles pressed, but prior to that, all my releases were vinyl. I think that kind of dried out around about 2008.
I guess that's when vinyl was probably at its lowest ebb.
Yeah, CD was very much at its helm, and vinyl had just become increasingly expensive to manufacture. The dangers of manufacturing 2,000 vinyl and being left with them on a shelf was becoming increasingly more possible,
Of course. I'm guessing then that if something isn't put into vinyl, do you feel like you kind of almost haven't released it yet if it's not on vinyl? Like it's not real until it's in vinyl?
Yeah, I think the physicality of it was always great for me. Whether that's because I've had so much vinyl release in the past, there was something very visceral about it. A tangible release comes through the post, there it is, it's out. It doesn't feel complete, like you just said, until there's some kind of physicality about it, something that you can give to somebody. There's something really beautiful about I actually gave somebody a record when Destroy the Magic came out, and it was such a lovely thing that I realised I'd missed for such a long time, It
is hard to establish a relationship with a record if you can't actually sort of have a physical relationship with it, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's Carlisle like for crate digging, Mark?
I guess there's not a lot of record shops, really, is there? I mean, yeah, I tend to find that HMV, they're obviously supporting a lot of big artists, big releases. I guess if you do crate dig, you're going to find a gem here and there. And you do have a local record shop, which you do sometimes frequent, but I guess because of that, I don't actually buy that many records myself anymore. I do buy records, but nowhere near the amount that I used to. I've got 4 kids now, mind. That's not,
Budget's not quite what it was.
Yeah.
There's a million things I could say to you.
You obviously toured late last year. Autumn 2024 you toured. I understand that you're performing at that record shop you're at tonight, are you? I'm curious what the process is like converting this new record, which is very kind of like beats driven. How does that feel live, and has it been hard shaping it for a live performance?
Yeah, it has been quite difficult. We were adamant that we were going to be, I mean, if you think about it, to cover all those elements live is insanely difficult. I would probably need about 13 or 14 people on stage to perform all those tracks if they were playing them all in their own right, So that's not really viable. But Paolo is performing a lot of that work live and triggering a lot of things live. So what we wanted was the potential for a lot to go wrong.
Well, I guess that's the only way a lot can go right.
Yeah. So that was a huge learning curve to transform those tracks, or transpose them, if you like, into a live performance. For me, it was quite difficult, because what you might hear as something, as a really big track, suddenly doesn't sound as big if it's been followed by something else. It has to work a little bit like, I guess, like a track list for an album. The journey has to work particularly well, but it also has to suit a live performance. So I won't lie, it's been very difficult.
It sounds to me like you effectively go back to the drawing board and almost like rewrite these songs for live performance.
Yeah, certain arrangement, like some of the percussion is our static element. So there's a couple of tracks, well, most of the tracks are all slightly different arrangements or different elements of playing, slightly different sounds. But we got as near as damn it, and some of it you would never tell the difference really.
And that's Mark from Novablood, Carlisle Trio. And the record that we were talking about, Destroy the Magic, their album, which is their most recent album, came out late last year, autumn 2024. That's out now. It's called Destroy the Magic. You should definitely check it out. And while we're in that...